I think it's important to know how valuable this ministry is for the community and the public to know that we do this, that we provide this service, that we can use their support and their help to love these children and to love these families. That's what we want them to hear. I couldn't do this job if I didn't feel like it was done the very best we can do it.
I was born and raised in Manchester, Tennessee, so that's all I've ever really known.
It's just kind of a small town. Everybody pretty well knows everybody's business most times. It's a pretty good place to live.
Well, for many people, adoption is finding a child that's their child. Matthew is the child of Greg and Geneva Miller. He was theirs. It didn't matter if he was in Nashville or Colombia or the Philippines. He was their child.
Susan and everybody there was just so welcoming to us. I had this misconception really early on about adoption, that it was lots of times doctors and lawyers and, that adopted. I mean, and nothing against doctors and lawyers, but I just really had this misconception that very financially well-off people, and not people like Greg and I are about as plain and small town as you get. I mean, there's nothing really fancy about us, and Susan made me know that that was okay.
I guess one of the things that always worried me before we actually got started into it was, would I be able to love this child like it was, born of my wife or me or whatever, and that's not been an issue. Everything's not going to be hunky-dory when you're going through stuff like this. Everything wasn't a bed of roses for me and my wife while all this was going on. If it was meant to be, God, He would give you some kind of sign that it was meant to be that way.
We knew we wanted to have children, when we married. We just figured we naturally would have a family. And it didn't happen. I mean, I went through a period where it was all about wanting to be pregnant. I really wanted to be pregnant. And after we stopped all the treatments, we just took some time and, just tried to clear our minds and just, do other things. But after all that was said and done, there wasn't a desire to be pregnant, there was a desire to be a parent. I didn't have to give birth to a child to be a mother.
So we started looking into adoption, and Geneva she just always had a feeling that God was calling us to adopt, internationally.
I started really praying about it, what road we should go down, with this. And it was like everywhere I would go, there would be something in a magazine about international adoption. There was something that came up on TV about one of the orphanages. And it was everywhere. It was just like bombarded, on me. So I knew, right then that God was not going to let this be.
When we talk with families about adoption, we let them know of all the opportunities that they might have out there. And the adoptions in the Philippines struck a chord with Greg and Geneva. They could have adopted domestically, but they really felt drawn to the people and to the need that the children there would have.
Greg had never, ever been on an airplane before, ever. I had flown to Los Angeles before, and I was terrified of flying. But going to get my children and going to get Matthew first, I was on a mission.
When we left Nashville and flew to Detroit, it's like, I thought, oh, this won't be nothing. Everybody kept telling me about this airplane flight, Yeah, when we left Detroit to go to Japan, now that was something.
When we landed in Manila in the Philippines, and you talk about two people that were, I mean, it was definitely like the Clampetts traveling. There's thousands of people, and there's, you're not in Kansas anymore, by no means. We pulled into Matthew's orphanage, and there he was, and he was dressed in an outfit that we had sent over several months before that was way too big for him. We had sent over pictures of us, so he kind of looked at us like, I've seen you, and I've heard people talk about who you are. But we were there at the orphanage for probably an hour, hour and a half before we were sitting outside on the grass, and Matthew came up and sat in my lap. And the first thing I did was just smell his hair and touch his head, because I had waited for so long, you know. I mean, he sat in my lap, and I just breathed him in, and it was one of those moments I'll remember forever and ever.
In the Philippines, everybody was nice. I mean, we never really ran into nobody that was out of the way or said anything out of the way. They was all hospitable and, you know, treated us just like, you know, one of their own. Now, Vietnam was a little bit different.
We knew that we wanted to have another child. So when we initially started looking, we had thought about going back to the Philippines again, but it's just a long process. So we decided we'd go through Vietnam. Marley was in a very remote orphanage in a province called Can Giang, and we arrived there, and it was about 4:30 in the afternoon, and Marley was sound asleep in her crib. And they just basically went over there and got her out of her crib and handed her to us. They never told us bye. They never hugged Marley bye. They never, which with Matthew's orphanage, they cried, I mean wept when Matthew left, and they never anything with Marley. And it was hard. She was covered in scabies, which we knew that from pictures we had received, which is not uncommon, you know. We came home, and it wasn't good for several months. It just took her a long time to adjust. So that it just goes to show you that it's not all. I think a lot of people sometimes are hesitant to say that, I think as an adoptive parent, sometimes you're afraid to say that things are hard because you've waited so long to become a parent, and you don't want anybody to think that, oh, well, you know, you should have known this going into it, or you know, that this is what parenting is, and you do know it going into it, but it's not to say it's not hard. I mean, when you're going, Marley didn't sleep for months. I mean, she'd sleep for 15-minute stretches at a time. She still has walls that are, you know, those walls have been taken down with her father and I greatly, but she's still not, does not trust others.
Matthew, he's very outgoing. He's very smart. Matthew's Mr. Social. He knows no strangers. He talks all the time. I told my wife he's either going to be a politician or a preacher. And Marley, she's smart, but she's cut and dry. She's real cute. She looks like one of these kids you want to run up and grab and hug, but not with her. You don't do her that way. She's going to be your friend. You're not going to be hers until she says you can. But yeah, they're both pretty good kids.
As a social worker and as a staff person here, we're here to serve. And so we really pay attention to relationships that we have with our clients. It benefits our community, it benefits the world when people are able to be successful in this type of endeavor. If they're well prepared, if they're well supported, if they feel that we're their advocate, then they can do amazing things. And it helps us to feel like we have had a part in something important.
Miriam's promise is so much a part of why they're here. I mean, they trusted in us to be parents. They trusted in us that we could make it through this process, that they were there for us to help us make it through this process.
And it will change your life. Kids change your life. I don't care if you adopt them or if you have them on your own, they're going to change your life. But, you know, me and my wife were ready for that change.